Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. I have a question here about getting on the horse quickly. I've done a few videos on this. You can check out some of the videos where I talk about the most important thing in being successful is to get back up, is how quickly you recover. I believe I was driving in a car while I was recording this video, but hey, when it comes to me, it comes to me. So this email is from Danny, and Danny says, "Hi John, thanks always for the great work you do. You have been a huge inspiration to me over the last few years while I've built up my apps side business. I'm planning to quit my job later this year and go all in with the business, and people like yourself have really helped me make this happen for me, as there are no people in my world doing this sort of thing." Totally agree. There's usually not very many people around, so you got to find the people that are doing the kind of thing that you want to do. Especially as an entrepreneur, that can be difficult. A lot of people are going to laugh at you and think you're crazy. But hey, you know what? I was crazy when I was starting doing these YouTube videos, and now I'm still crazy. All right. You often talk about the idea of getting back on the horse and how it's not your ability to avoid screwing up that matters, but your ability to get back on the horse quickly when you do screw up. Although I've been quite successful in some areas of my life, I've always struggled with addictive tendencies. In the past with smoking and drugs, but more recently with binge eating and weight management. In this area, I seem to have black or white thinking. I'm either all in on eating well and losing weight, or I'm all in on eating terribly and completely destroying any progress I've made. I can be doing great for several weeks on sticking to my eating plan, which is incidentally OMAD, 1 meal a day, by the way. But then as soon as I take a single wrong step, I head completely down the wrong path and can't seem to get back on the horse, as you say, for quite some time. I usually don't get back onto the horse until I've gone so far downhill that I can't bear the pain of where I've ended up. This pain is the only thing that gets me back on the right path again. Obviously, this is not healthy and will never lead to the results I seek. Can you go into more details about exactly how to, quote, get back on the horse quickly? What is the thought process you go through to get yourself back on the right path before you can cause too much damage? Are there particular things that you can tell yourself? Is there a ritual or routine you go through to get back on track, or do you just simply do it? I'd love to hear you go into more details about this. Thanks for your great work, Danny. So, Danny, a lot of stuff to unpack here. I mean, essentially the question is, how do you get back on the horse quickly? How do you train yourself to this? So I have to make some confessions first. This is one of the areas that I struggle with for sure as well. I mean, this is just hard. I think it's always going to be challenging. I don't think you're ever going to be, perfect at doing this, right? The better I get at getting back on the horse quickly, the better off that I am. Now, I'm a lot better than I was, but I still have these problems. I still struggle with this, especially with the eating, with the diet thing, right? I know that I should be on point on my diet, but sometimes I'll go and I'll do something bad, and then I'll compound it by saying, well, I might as well just eat carbs today or whatever, and I might as well just enjoy myself and be back on it tomorrow. And usually I am back on it tomorrow, so I'm not really that bad as what I used to be, but sometimes it can go for a longer period of time. I haven't been able to achieve the exact results that I've wanted, even though I have all of the understanding, even though I have a lot of discipline, but because of this one thing. And I think this is something that definitely plagues a lot of people. So I'm saying this ahead of time so that you can feel a little bit better about yourself, because as much as I've been able to do, as fit as I am, I still struggle with this, and I will always probably struggle with this to some degree. It is tough, and biologically, there's a lot of factors that are working against you here with any kind of addiction, right? There's a couple of videos I'd like to point to. One of them is obviously the video that we'd already talked about, but I did this video on flying off the rails for those of you that are interested in that. I think I did some on damage control and stuff like that. Maybe we should put together a playlist on all these types of videos. And then I had another video that I was thinking of, on overcoming addiction and whatnot. And I think that is the mindset that's required. But I want to talk specifically in this video about that, getting back on the horse quickly, how to develop that mindset. There's a lot of questions here that I thought were good. How to get back on the horse quickly, obviously. What's the thought process you go through to get yourself back on the right path before you cause too much damage? Are there particular things you tell yourself? Is there a ritual routine, right? Or do you just simply do it? I think ultimately it comes down to simply doing it, right? And to avoid rationalization. So rationalization and justification is really easy for us to do. It's something that I struggle with. Everyone struggles with this. So you have to make sure, first of all, that you do not allow yourself to rationalize or justify things. Okay, it helps to have a really solid plan, and it helps to think about this ahead of time, right? To have a lot of these if-then situations in your life, right? So I have a lot of this lined up. So if something happens, I'm going to do this. If I can't hit the gym today, I'm going to do this. If it rains today, I'm going to do this. If I have to, people come in and I'm going to go eat out at a restaurant, I'm going to do this, right? So if you have these things pre-planned and thought about ahead of time, that's going to help you. So in this case where you say, okay, if I'm on my diet plan and somehow I don't intend to screw up, but if I do screw up and I do fly off the rails a bit, then I'm going to do what? What am I going to do? Am I going to immediately stop, right? So ultimately it does come down to the fact that you just got to not do it. You just got to stop as soon as possible. The more that you internalize this, the more that you realize that this is absolutely true, right? The better off that you'll be. And one thing that, I've been doing, I talked about a little bit, I don't have it right now, but I've been doing this failure journal. And one of the things that highlights for me is that how much that when I fail, like I now have to recover from that, right? That it is a failure, right? That these things do have consequences, that I think that I'm justifying in my head that I'm just going to eat this one meal, or I'm going to take a break for a while, or I deserve it. But then I have to write in my failure journal how I failed and the results that, the bad results that I got from that. So I think that's one of the things, is just to recognize, like, when you really internalize that stopping now is going to be very beneficial to you, right? I talked about, I think in that original video, about like, if you really got the discipline down, you're spitting out that Big Mac, you're taking the bite, you realize that you've done wrong, and you're actually spitting it out then, right? So, the difference between being able to have that amount of self-control and that amount of snapping into it, getting back on the horse, versus, okay, well, I'm going to eat this Big Mac, and then, well, since I ate the Big Mac, I might as well eat some fries, I might as well have some cake, right? Tomorrow I'll get back on track on the diet. But you got to realize that every little step that you go in the wrong direction is a step you have to retrace backwards, right? So I think maybe that's kind of a psychology, the way that I think about things a lot of times, is I think about, sometimes you think about, about having to start over, but what you actually have to do is to retrace steps, and retracing steps is the most painful thing possible. So, at the end of the day, if you go on a binge eating, whatever it is, a binge eating journey, or what, I don't know what you call it, like a trip, and you eat a bunch of junk, and then what's going to end up happening is that it's going to take you, you're going to have to get back to where you were and then make progress again. So you have to actually retrace those steps. And so the reason why I say that is because the least damage that you do, the least retracing of your steps that you'll have to do. So every moment that you stop yourself, every less step that you take down the wrong path is one less step that you'll have to come back, right? So if you think about it, it's like if you're swimming out into the middle of a lake, all right, and however far out you swim from shore, that's how far you got to come back, right? So make sure you don't swim out too far so that it's so hard to get back, right? You want to make forward progress. The other thing I think about also is that every day I want to be making forward progress on things. So if I can't make forward progress, then at the very least, I can stop making backwards progress. So whatever you do to limit damage, whatever you do to get back on the horse is going to be critical. But I think ultimately, you've got to have those systems in place. You've got to have those rules. I use things like a tether, which I've talked about a few times, which is essentially I have some kind of thing that's going to remind me that where I was and where I want to get back to and what my goals are. At one point, I shaved my head. At one point, I was growing out a mustache. I still have this one from Tony Robbins, GPW, because I did go off the I did go off the rails there when I was at that conference. I wasn't sleeping much. I was justifying in my head that I should eat a bunch of junk, and so I ate a bunch of junk, and I still haven't gotten back to that weight that I was, which was 210 for me. I'm like at like 225 now. Now here's the thing that's kind of funny about that is I gained a bunch of muscle. So I'm actually close to as lean as I was. I mean, I'm not as lean. I definitely need to lean out more. But when I get back to 210 and take this stupid thing off, finally, I'm going to be shredded at this point because I actually gained a bunch of muscle. So it's kind of funny how that happened. But it's still a tether for me. I still look at it. I still remember. It keeps me, it's a way that I can remember where I want to be and to go back to that. So I think those are, like I said, this is such a hard thing. It is very, very difficult to do, but now, for the most part, when I do screw up, I tend to get right back on the next day, or even if I can that same day, and stop and make the screw up be as small as possible. But it's really hard when you get your emotions start to carry you away, when you start to get down on yourself, when you start to feel bad. You just got to have these rules, right? You just got to have that in place. And then, like I said on that addiction video, having that higher mindset, viewing yourself a little bit differently, that's going to make a big difference. But this is really, really hard stuff, right? This is, like I said, this is probably, there's a reason why I said in that original video that this is probably the thing that's going to determine your success in life more than anything else. And so if there were a really simple solution for this, if I could just give you a magic pill or just tell you all you got to do is this, then, it'd be so easy to be super successful in life. But if you keep that in mind, if you realize, that's the other thing that you could do is if you really internalize and you really believe that getting back on the horse as quickly as possible is one of the most important, perhaps the most important skill that you can develop in your life, then it doesn't become, you're changing the struggle, you're changing the battle, right? So if the battle is, I need to stop eating junk and get in eating healthy because I want to have a good physique, that's one thing, and you could change your mind on that, right? You could be like, yeah, I don't really care as much anymore. I'd rather eat the good food, okay? But if you change the battle and you said, okay, I want to be successful in life. And so this particular battle, like my ability to get back on the horse quickly after going on a binge eating journey or whatever it is, I still don't have a good term for that. If the battle is not that I want to have a good physique or I want to lose weight, which you still may want to do those things, but if the battle is, I need to develop this skill. I need to do this just for the sake of getting on the horse as quickly as possible, getting back on the horse, because that's going to determine my ultimate level of success in life in all areas. Like, this is a skill that I'm trying to develop. So here's an opportunity, right? Here you go. Opportunity to work on that skill. So you see something bad that's happening to you, and you say, hey, I could turn this around and I could look at this as an opportunity to practice this really, really difficult thing, the most difficult thing perhaps to do in life, which is to get back on the horse as quickly as possible, to turn around, right? To do that. So that's how I would look at it. That's how I would change the viewpoint. That's how I tend to look at it today, and that helps me a lot. A lot of times where I could go down the drain and go down that path, or I pull myself back, and I'm getting better. I'm getting better at pulling it back faster, getting better at not going so far down the wrong path. And the other thing is just the consequences. How many times have you remember in your head how many times that you've gone down the wrong path and how you had to pay for it and how long it took you to get back, right? I constantly am thinking now in my head, man, you were so close to hitting your goal. You were so friggin' ripped in that one video when you did that, when you were at that point where you have that trailer video where you're ripped, and then you went and screwed it up. Like, you just had to go a little bit further. So I think about how many times I've done that to myself and how I could prevent myself from having to do that again, and then that becomes worth it. But ultimately though, you just have to have this attitude that this is an important skill that you want to develop regardless of the cost, and you got to set these rules. You got to think about these things ahead of time so that you know what's going to happen. Again, if you try to make emotional decisions, right, you're going to make bad ones because you're going to be stuck in the emotion. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel like you're beating yourself up. You're not going to feel motivated. But if you've already made rules, if you've already pre-decided things ahead of time, it's going to keep you from screwing up and then continuing down the path and going wherever your emotions take you. Instead, you're going to say, okay, this is the presence, this is the state of mind where I made these decisions and I'm following these decisions. This is how you have to operate in life if you want to be successful. You have to be planning things and then executing them. And when you're executing, you're not making judgments about what you're doing. It's only when you're planning, when you go in retrospect. So I talked about, I think I did a video a while back about wearing two hats, right? And I was talking about in entrepreneurship, but in life, really, you've got the director where you're directing the life and you're deciding what your plan is and what you're going to do, and then you've got the execution hat where you're actually executing that plan, but you're not making judgments about it, and you switch those hats back and forth, but you've got to be in execution mode for a long period of time without questioning things, because that's when the judgment comes into play, and that's the bad time to make decisions. All right, I hope that helps you. I'll probably talk about this subject more because this is really, really difficult, and I do want to find a really good answer for this. I can only give you tips at this point, but this is one of those things that I'm constantly working on myself, and when I have a real solid answer, I'll definitely do another video on that. But I do hope that that does help you, if anything, just to realize how important this is. And like I said, if I could give you one takeaway from this video, it would be simply this: change the battle. Change the battle from the thing to focusing on developing the skill of getting back on the horse as quickly as possible. If you change that battle, then you'll see a lot of the problems that you have and the times that you slip off the horse as opportunities to be able to practice this oh so important skill in your life. If you like this video, I have a request for you. Click that subscribe button below, and don't worry if you can't watch all the videos. You can always just watch the ones you like. You don't have to be on this horse all the time. I'll talk to you next time, and take care.